Okay.
There we go. We're live now.
Okay. Katie McLean, Office of Legislative Counsel. So we were discussing contingency effective dates. You can absolutely do a contingency effective dates, and we have done them before. I tend to think that we need to be extremely thoughtful when we're doing a contingency effective date. Words matter, and if we don't know that the contingency has taken effect, that creates a lot of confusion for everybody, for people in the field, for attorneys, for the AGO's office that's trying to enforce it. So some of the concerns that I'm sort of thinking through are if you are like, what is the exact contingency that is occurring to trigger the effect of your provision? Is it that they also, another state enacts a provision that regulates infant formula in the same way that Vermont does in this bill? What if they define infant formula differently? So we're not exactly comparing apples to apples. Or what if the regulation is slightly different than the model that you're putting into place? So I think those are just questions that we need to think through when we're putting a contingency in place so somebody can affirmatively say, yes, this contingency has been met. So I think the words and the contingency become very important. And I'll just add to that. One thing I like in a contingency is that there's a point person or somebody who is certifying that this has happened instead of leaving it up to everybody to sort of guess, has the contingency been met? So in other bills, I've had the Commissioner of Health certifying to the speaker and to the pro tem and issuing a written statement posted on websites that this contingency has been met. And then there's sort of like a clear definitive statement that yes, we have achieved the contingency. So that's, I guess, something to think through for you.
Thank you. Representative Nelson.
It sounds like it's gonna take Ledge Council some time to work on this and probably won't get it done in the next 16 hours or 6 hours.
Well-
I'm trying to cut you some break here. Should we pass out a committee right now, a clean bill, and give Ledge Council a chance to work on this? And if it can be done for the floor, we can amend it there, or we could bring it to the Senate downstairs.
Well, those are both possibilities. Yeah.
If this is something the committee really wants to do, I can go to another room and I can sit down and think through and do it. It won't take 10 minutes. It will take me a few minutes to think it through. And I'll need a little bit more guidance about what specifically is it about the baby formula statutes in other states that would trigger your statute taking effect.
Right. So general thoughts before we get into, go ahead, Jeff.
Just my general thought would be we need to maybe find a way to word it so that it doesn't have to be exactly the exact same definition, but close enough.
Okay.
How to do that.
So you would probably want some language substantially similar, something like that. But whoever is your point person for making the call that the contingency is met, you're sort of delegating them the authority of interpreting what substantially similar means.
Representative Lipsky.
Thank you. I appreciate your input, and your ability. I would prefer to vote on this as it is without baby formula, and would certainly be open to an amendment from the House floor or sending an amendment to the Senate. But I'm learning not to be so excited about being the first in the nation to do something. Hasn't worked out too well in other bills building. So that's where I stand.
Thank you. Yeah, Representative Burke.
Concur with Rep. Lipsky on that. And I will add that if we are going to go with the original, I think we need to change a date at least.
So yeah, we would not just be doing the as introduced, but we'd be. I'll say in a minute, but I think we'd be doing. I want to hear if anybody else has any feelings on this yet, John.
My thoughts are that if we bumped it out 1 year
to 2029, somebody is gonna, I mean, we know by that point, hopefully the FDA will have weighed in and some other state will have probably taken this up. So I don't feel necessarily the need for a contingency to vote for it. But I could just as well, I agree with Jed, I could just as well just vote for baby food and work on it, like John said, come back next year and work on it.
Are you gonna make a motion?
No,
Okay, go ahead.
do you want me to make them?
No?
No, I just, one thing that just occurred to me that would be of concern is that if we wanted to do this, we really need to look at when the effective date is and push it out. And we need to look at the substantially this language we're talking about. If this goes to the floor, I think it's pretty likely that someone's going to come up with an amendment just to add formula. And I think that many members will find that simple addition very attractive. And we could end up getting it in there with no extension date and nothing about other states. I'm just feeling that this is something that people are going to be passionate about, and there might be the votes out there to pass it. And then we don't get the language that we need. One concern I have.
We would have, as a committee, the opportunity to weigh in on that amendment and presumably work with somebody who might have that interest. I'm going to suggest that we ask Katie to not go back and spend all the time it would take to do that, but to take the most recent draft, leave all the changes that are in there with the exception of the big one that removed the exemption for formula and so put that exemption back in. And then we will, as others have suggested, have the opportunity to either amend it ourselves. That's the committee's interest. But in the interest of time here, I'm going to propose that we do that. And then we can have you send us that new draft and then we can vote that out.
I'm happy to do that, Wendy. I want to clarify that I understand what you would like. So you would like essentially section 2 of the bill removed that adds infant formula at a later date.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's what it boils down to. And then we had made some other changes in the most recent draft that can stay,
Okay. I can do that.
right? I don't see anybody scowling too much at that suggestion, so I think we're going to go ahead and have you do that. Thank you, Katie.
Okay.
All right, let's see, what other lawyers do you have in the room?
I have a little sign for it.
Yeah,
Who isn't a lawyer?
Bradley, I think that you've got 3 bills that you've been working on, and I'm gonna have you come up and we'll talk about the Paraquat bill first. So this is 739 and
739?
yes.
Yeah.
H 739, yep.
Bradley Shulman, Office of Legislative Counsel. Today we'll be talking about H 739 amendments to or the Paraquat bill. And I'll share my screen to put the language up. Because there have been things that have changed. This is draft 3.3.
That's on our page.
Yep.
All right, and just so before Bradley starts through, I've talked to Bradley, I've emailed Bradley. Bradley has emailed me back often well after dark. So I appreciate your attention on all of these bills. And there's some new language here that reflects conversations that we were having yesterday that weren't necessarily conclusive. So we need to, I'm not sure that we're at the final point, but we may be.
Okay.
So let's see what we have here.
The first thing I just wanted to point out is that we changed the word kills to defoliates. Defoliates all vegetation that touches in the findings. And just
The findings.
in the findings. Okay. And so let's get down to the language. So there was some discussion of adding a different chemical compound for paraquat, paraquat dimethyl sulfate. The first 2 paraquat compounds that have been in the bill from the beginning are more of the focus of the EPA. And then this third one is not necessarily emerging. It's just a different name for paraquat compounds. And so what this bill does is add a third compound, and then it also adds in a catch-all or any known as paraquat with the chemical name and all salts thereof. And so that is meant to kind of capture anything that be known as paraquat using that chemical compound. Because you'll notice this chemical compound, I'll highlight it here so you see it on the screen, but you'll notice that chemical compound is the same or similar for a lot of the for each of these. And so it's an indicator of paraquat. And so this catch-all is meant to just catch other forms of paraquat.
Why don't we go through the whole
Yeah.
thing, and then we'll take questions.
Okay.
Another difference is that we changed the language within fruit producing tree orchards only on or before July 1st, 2030. The date, I received that information from Representative Chair Durfee here.
There's two things I think there, Bradley. So the date, but also within fruit producing tree orchards is new language.
That is.
Just to remind us what was there before.
It was upon orchard trees and then a blank for the dates.
Okay, so rather than saying on trees, it's now within the orchards.
That is correct. That is correct. So use it within the orchard.
Let's go through the whole thing and then we'll come back to questions.
And we added some information about the permit. So a written exemption order under the subsection shall not be valid for more than 3 years or until July 1st, 2030, whichever comes first. So if you apply for a permit under this section, you get it for 3 years. If you apply for a permit under this section on July 1st, 2029, it's only good for 1 year because the ban will have passed by then. And then the permit itself should specify the uses and crops or plants to which the permit applies, the date the permit takes effect, the permit's duration, and the permit's geographic scope, which might include specific farms, fields, or properties. So the permit itself describes what the allowable uses. And those were the changes. I didn't make changes to the reporting or the study section other than to add in this reference to a date. So in the report section, we're asking the Agricultural Innovation Board to report on alternatives to the pesticide paraquat in addition to using the pesticide. Recommendations for practices to reduce the use of paraquat and alternatives to using paraquat. And then we're asking the board to give recommendations and alternatives in the event paraquat becomes unavailable due to regulatory or commercial action before the Vermont ban comes into place. And currently the Vermont ban is set for the 1st, 2030. And the effective date of the bill is July 1st, 2026.
So thank you, Bradley. So I saw a number of hands with maybe some questions about the meaning of these changes or existing. John, you were first.
Yeah, just a couple of quick ones, and I don't even know if you'll know, but Bradley, but Richard's memo from Syngenta mentioned the Gramoxone family, and I just wondered if Gramoxone, say, it shows up in all those 3 different paraquat molecular. Just
I'm not familiar with the chemical you're talking about.
Gramoxone's the brand name.
The brand name, yes.
Syngenta makes paraquat. This is the most popular brand name.
Okay.
I just didn't know. I can find out, I guess. From
So these are paraquat, right? And then so the chemicals known as paraquat include these CAS registry numbers, and you'll see them here. And each of these registry numbers, when you pull that information up on the EPA or a third-party website, you'll pull up different chemical names for this paraquat. And so Representative Durfee and I had a little bit of a back and forth today because we're trying to land on which one of those names to use, because a lot of those names are synonymous and a lot of those chemical names are the same. And so what an individual should do is you look at the actual chemical name on the bottle or on the, it's not necessarily the bottle, right? But on the packaging of the pesticide, and you'll look at the chemical name, and then you can look up that chemical name to determine whether or not it fits into one of these categories. And so I'm not familiar with that specific brand off the top of my head, but that's how you would find that information.
The other question was, did we take out the sort of viticulture? We just have,
Yeah, so right now it's just orchard.
okay.
Yes, it's just orchards now.
And just to, I guess this is probably obvious, but the intent here on the 4 different, types of, or 1, 2, 3, 4 was just to be sure that we were capturing all different paraquats.
Mm.
And, we can't tell really one from the other.
And the catch-all is meant to kind of catch the different chemical names and different chemical forms that paraquat can come in. And the first part of the chemical name is the ion, and then the science gets beyond me at that point. But the paraquat itself is largely defined by this ion. And so the catch-all is kind of meant to collect that information, and then so different variants of that ion can be included in that catch-all phrase.
Right. Representative Bartholomew, thank you, Bradley.
Is it intentional here on page 4, line 19, where we have tree in there? That it can only be used on trees, producing trees.
Tree orchards, is that where you are?
Yes,
Yes,
so can't be used on grapevines, can't be used on blueberries.
tree orchards. Yeah, that was intentional,
Okay.
but that was the one exception. Representative Burt.
January 1st be a better date, July 1st.
January 1st of 2031.
Are you on page,
It would be 2031, and so it's not mid-growing season.
He's on page 6, line 4.
And then the enactment date should be probably January 1st of 2026.
where's the first reference to that date, Greg? Because I know there's.
January.
Is on page 4, line 20 is the first reference to the date.
Okay,
And that's the primary reference. That's the ban. And then the remaining references are on page 5, line 4. It's talking about the validity of the permit. And then the third reference to that date is on page 6, line 2. It's talking about instructing the Agricultural Innovation Board.
yes. Okay, so that's okay.
Yeah, I'm specifically talking about on page 4, line 20. Doing January 1st, 2031, and then.
Page 5, line 4.
And the enactment, this act shall take effect, I would do. Well, depends on what are the other dates in here?
You're bumping it 6 months, it'd be January 1st, you were
I
saying.
would do January 1st, 2027, because. They have to have a permitting process in place. And. Growers have to be aware of it. And it would be. Not during the growing season.
Yeah.
July is probably not a great idea to. Have something for agriculture.
Okay, so suggestion. Hold that suggestion. Other questions about the meaning of the words?
I was trying to look things up real quick. I wish we had Director Dwinell here because he sleeps he dreams those names in the world to,
Yeah.
just to make sure we had the exact right nomenclature up there.
Well, I,
I don't know if it suffices to call it all paraquat or if you need to get into all the chemical names. I saw there was a dichloride on there and stuff. And
Sean O'Brien will be reporting this bill if we pass it out, right? So.
I could ask Steve.
Yeah, and then we could, this is another thing where we could just do a quick fix if we needed to.
yeah, do a quick
Yeah.
floor amendment. Okay. That's all.
The only other, we have a study in here, right? Where we're looking for recommendations for alternatives to the use of paraquat for farmers. If they don't find. If they come back and say we haven't found a good alternative. But we still. Have the date of. In here, it's July 1st, 2031. No more permits can be issued. I know the intention of what we're trying to do with this bill, but at the same time, if our. State comes back with no answers for fruit tree growers. And it's still available on the market in the US. I'd be more apt to have a little bit of language in here that says that. Something that would. Extend. A permitting. Time based on whether or not. A viable system has been found by the Ag Innovation Board. That fruit tree growers can work with.
So another suggestion.
I don't know how is that a complicated thing to do, council?
We need to get some more kind of suss it out. Suss out some more details there.
So we can figure out if.
Yeah.
What we could do. I want to just see before we talk about policy, these policy ideas, or others, whether anybody has any other questions about what we have on the page and what it would mean, what the implications are. So we thank you then, Bradley, for that. Stay seated.
Well, yes, can I, if I may?
Yes.
So if the committee does change the effective date of the bill, I would recommend 2 effective dates if you want to keep the study in, because, or change the date the study is due.
Yeah.
Because the study is currently due January 15th, 2027.
Yeah.
And so if the effective date of the bill is January 1st, 2027, that's only 15 days that they have.
Yeah.
And so just to kind of keep that in mind when you're changing the effective date of the
Okay,
bill.
so to address the concern, I think we would like to keep the study, presumably happening. And, but to address the concern there, is there a way to draft it so that?
So we could have the study be effective, like section E, effective on passage. And the rest of the bill effective at some other date.
Yeah.
That is certainly possible.
Just quickly, do bans stay in place even if the product is no longer commercially for sale?
Yes.
Okay,
Means you can't go to Mexico and get it.
I know that our clerk has another obligation that he may need to leave for shortly. So just to move things along, so just get a sense of the committee, maybe a show of hands on the idea of moving the all of the July 1, 2030s to January 1, 2031. How many people would be in favor of that? Okay, who is not in favor of that?
I was thinking, can we push the first date out and the second date back, make it sooner? So do January 1st, 2027 and then January 1st, 2030?
I'm not sure that understand
So
which date you're
it's
talking about.
effective, the first one, it would be, when passage comes. That date, the final date would be pushed out to January 1st, 2027. And the final ban figure would be January 1st, 2030.
So
So actually 6 months sooner.
okay, so I think we're not talking about the enactment date here. We're just talking about the changing the 2030 date to a different date.
All right, well then just move that up a year, or 6 months from this, actually, instead of making it 3.5, make it
Okay,
closer to the 3.
so you'd make it January 1, 2030.
Right.
Okay. All right, is that what you're?
So that's kind of a compromise, what John just said. It's like halfway between, it's making one longer and one shorter in terms of the implementation dates. I'm okay with that.
Which one, shorter?
What's at the very end, it says what?
Can you tell us which page you're on, John?
The effect,
The actual take effect on July 1st, 2026, so that could be January 1st.
No, we're leaving that the way it is, but we're adding a different effective date for so that's the effective date for the report, the study. And then the rest of it would take effect on January 1, 2027.
We'll then push the January 15th, 2028. And then the last one when the ban actually goes into effect.
But I think we want the report right away, as soon as possible. So that's,
That's possible, you think, as Greg was saying, maybe that's too soon.
So I was suggesting that this act not take effect until January 1st of 2027. Because it's putting it,
Again,
You have to have
getting it out of the growing
you have to
season.
give time for the agency to come up with a permitting process, right?
Yep.
So, and then it gets it, so it's not in the middle of the growing season.
Yep.
So that would be, January 1st, 2027 is when it would be active.
and just let me stop you there for a second, Greg. So yes, that all makes sense to me anyway.
Mhm.
But in order to have the report available to the legislature on January 15th of 2027, we would need to have an effective date just of the report section of this date. So we would have two effective dates. Bradley just suggested. Yes.
so there would be an effective date for the report, an effective date for the bill, and then the ban date where the pesticide itself becomes banned. And then, so those are 3 different dates that are the important ones of this bill.
So I think the one that partly what you were suggesting was that it would be more practical to have the ban take effect on the 1st of January than just because of the growing season than the 1st of July. I think that makes sense. Question is that the 1st of January 2030 or 2031 or some other year? But
Are you, Chair, are you talking about that's the phase out completely, right?
yes,
2030.
yeah.
So I would personally prefer to see that be January 1st, 2031, so that growers have 3 years to adopt a different system.
It could be November 1st of 2030.
Or November, anything after the growing season.
Anything after the growing season. Could be October 1st. Hey, I don't know, you frost free all that time?
Nobody's spraying it. in November.
So, okay, so November 1st, 2030.
Yeah. And are you saying November 1st for the November 1st, 2026? For starting,
No, take the implementation of the ban.
I didn't know if you wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the implementation of the special permit would be November 1st of 2026.
It's fine by me as long as it's after.
That's, yeah, get you through and get you time to give the agency time to be ready for that. And you'll apply for it probably in whenever.
Bradley, are you following that? Because I see nodding heads and
So the pesticide will be banned November 1st, 2030.
Yeah.
Effective date of this bill will be November 1st, 2026. And then the effective date for the study would be on passage.
Yes. Or July 1.
Don't we also have to change the permit time then? For the,
Was there another date there or?
Yeah, there's a-
Yeah, we'd have to change the other corresponding dates that refer to the date of the ban. But I would change those as well.
permit up until, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right,
And I feel like there's one other date that
yes,
on or the very last one, on or before January 15th, 2027.
I think we want to
Does that
keep
be-
that.
Well, there's not gonna be a whole lot to report on if it started in November 1st,
So we're not,
but I don't know.
yeah, no, what we're asking the board here to do is to gather information that it has from other sources, from research around the globe. And,
Got it.
yeah,
Chair, is this gonna be favorable with amendment or favorable?
this will be favorable. This is a committee bill. So it's, I think, none of the above there, but committee bill.
This is not a committee bill.
No.
This is an
Sorry.
amendment.
Sorry, okay, yeah, you're absolutely right. Favorable with amendment.
Thank you.
I knew there was something different. It's a short form bill. Right,
Chair, is there any opportunity that I would have to bring forth the suggestion I had earlier about if the agricultural innovation work comes back with no viable solution? This could be similar. Could we do a committee amendment potentially? Is that something you'd be willing to look at?
Well, let's hear what people think. Representative Bartholomew.
Would be obligated to look at any amendment that a member makes.
Yeah, you could have a simple,
Or is there any interest in it?
well,
The only one.
you could have an amendment drawn up if no feasible solutions found, it could continue by special permit. Yeah, I mean, that's one way to word it, you know, and it, you know, like. And, you know, and by the time this works through, we'll know. Who, what, where, when. You know what I'm saying? You know, with special permits, they'll have hard data.
I'm gonna suggest that, I think. We want to try and be accommodating and flexible. I also. Worry a little bit that we're giving the board or the agency. More flexibility or leeway than we might want to. That we're saying, what this is saying essentially is. It's gonna be phased out. Our growers need to know what they can do when it's phased out or when it stopped being available, which could be tomorrow. And give them the best information you can in order to ensure that they're doing that and not coming back with, yeah, we want to, we don't think there's a good solution. That sort of ties our hands then, in theory. So I think that we can certainly entertain amendments, but I just want to caution about, undermining the intent of having the ban. So those are your two policy thoughts, right? Greg, I think the dates and then that, yeah. Does anybody else have a policy suggestion? In that case, maybe we should move that we ask Bradley to make those changes to the dates, which would be a new draft number. And can you tell us what that draft number will be, Bradley? And then we'll.
4.1.
4.1, okay. All right, so do we have a motion then to amend the bill using draft 4.1,
I'll move.
right? Representative Lipsky. Is there any other discussion? All right, the clerk can call the roll.
John Bartholomew, how do you vote?
Yes.
Michelle Bosman,
Yes.
Jack Brigham,
Yes.
Gregory Greg Burke,
Yes.
Jed Lipsky, yes. Richard Nelson.
Yep.
Yes. Don O'Brien,
Yes.
Chairman David Durfee,
Yes.
vote is 8-0-0, and the reporter is Rep O'Brien.
Rep. O'Brien, yeah,
And the time is
4:27.
4:27.
All right, thank you, everybody. And in Representative Lipsky's absence, we'll need an assistant clerk. Ranking member will take on that.
It's like the ranking member.
Remember, just got it.
Thank you, and can you call in? Do you have an answering the call? Yeah, but I didn't want to use my.
You just got that new draft, we sent it to Rep. O'Brien.
And so I'm just changing the dates as we discussed, is that right?
Medium.
Send it to Rep. O'Brien, who will review the dates with me and just make sure that.
Okay, okay. And you still need me, you want me to talk about, we're moving on to rodenticides and things?
So let's move on to the miscellaneous ag bill.
Okay.
Which might be a rearranging of things
Okay.
on the agenda. So Patricia, we're going to talk next about the miscellaneous ag bill. And what is the miscellaneous ag bill? The housekeeping bill. We've got at the moment, I think, 3 sections in this draft. The first has to do, and we haven't spent any time on this other than the very beginning when we first looked at it. The agency proposed that we make some changes to water quality training rules. They've been in the wraps for a long time. The suggestion was that it wasn't necessary to require every year that this training take place for farmers. ANR reviewed this language and they were willing to come and testify, but they said, we don't have any concerns about it. So I told them that under the circumstances, I didn't think it was necessary to have them in. The second part is the part that we went over the other day with changes to non-sewage solid waste on farms. And again, originally the agency had proposed language, and in this case, ANR had quite a lot to say. And they worked with the Agency of Agriculture to come up with some changes. And those changes we went over the other day, they're incorporated into this draft. That's the second piece. And then the third piece has to do with the unit pricing that we heard about yesterday. And the incorporation of digital price tags. And we heard testimony after the agency, we heard testimony from the Retailer Grocers Association with some concerns. What this draft shows is everything that the agency proposed there, with the exception of the change in the size of stores. So it goes back to the existing statute there. And I think that this is something we should just take some more. Personally, I feel like we should take some more testimony before we make a change that affects possibly our Vermont retailers in a way that they were uncomfortable, that they expressed being uncomfortable with or disagreeing with. So that's what this draft shows. And do you want to just walk through that last section, Bradley?
So this is the change. And so previously it's what it previously said. Previously it was 2 stores at 6,000 feet or more. So an establishment that has 2 or fewer stores with less than 6,000 square feet of retail estate. This one says at a retail store with less than 7,000 square feet of floor space, dedicated to sale consumer commodities.
6.2.
This is draft 6.2.
That's what's on the screen now.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And then the rest of this is just conforming the language to some of the definitional changes and then some just grammar changes. Our editors did make just some more grammar changes. And so this exception shall not apply to retail establishments of a company having 2 or more sales locations as parts of the company.
Well, that's existing law.
Yes, yes. And so, and that is existing law and
Those changes are just cleaning up. So instead of exception, it says exemption. Instead of the sales agencies or instrumentalities, which is kind of archaic, maybe.
right.
It says retail establishment, we're changing that to retail. Okay.
And then the rest of the section, there was just some slight just grammar edits and things. But we did change because this top section says the unit price requirements of this chapter shall not apply to sales of consumer commodity or shall not apply to consumer commodity sales as follows: at a retail store, when different brands or products are commingled, when commodities are individually marked with a clearance or sale tag, and so forth. So we added the word when to a lot of these sections, and then we made section B a different subsection because it talks about the total selling price requirements of this chapter shall not apply when all items in a retail establishment have the same total selling price. So just some minor grammatical changes to this section, and then but it's taking the language back to in section 1, A1 here, it's taking the language back to what it was. Or to the statute.
All right. Questions for Bradley about these changes or things that were there before? Policy questions or concerns or suggestions?
Is this 260770?
Yeah.
And would that be what I write down on this?
Yes. And it is version
6.2.
6.2.
Is the line,
Go ahead, John.
is the language that was objected to still in this draft or not?
No.
No, okay.
Yeah, no, so well, this is current law with technical grammatical changes.
Because some of the definitions in the section changed, so we just conform it to the definitions, but it's just the thrust is the same.
Yeah, thank you, Representative Burt.
Make sure I'm clear, this would mean that if you have 2 or more locations, then you would have to have unit price requirements.
Yeah, so the unit price requirements of this chapter shall not apply to retail established. So this section, there's a couple of knots here, so let me just go through it. But the unit price requirements of this chapter shall not apply to consumer commodity sales as follows: at a retail store with less than 7,000 square feet of floor space dedicated to consumer commodities. So this is another knot here. So this exception shall not apply to retail establishments of a company having 2 or more sales locations as parts of that company. So, so if you have 2 or more sales locations as part of that company, the exemption from unit price requirements of this chapter does not apply.
So if you have 2 or more that are less than 7,000 square feet.
And so the exemption for less than 7,000 square feet of sales space only applies if you have the one location. But if you have a retail establishment of having 2 or more sales locations as part of that company, then the exemption, then you do have to apply for the unit price requirements.
Doesn't matter what your square footage is.
That is correct. That is correct. It is now that we're explaining it is a little confusing because there's 2 knots that are going on, but that is correct.
Representative Brabham.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 14.
14.
Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, so if you have 2, so would that mean that the Craftsbury Jenny, they have a store in Craftsbury that's small, They have an even smaller store up in Albany. Would that require them to have unit pricing on at both locations then, because they have two stores?
Yeah, they have two or more sales locations as part of the same company, then you would have to apply.
Are they the same business?
This is
Two
current,
separate
this is current law.
Yeah,
This is current law.
that's current law now?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well.
So nobody's following it,
Yeah.
so that's why you were gonna amend.
Probably no one will be following it again afterwards anyhow.
Well, that, we can have that conversation, but current law here, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you, Chair. And do I title this committee bill or I title this
You know,
working groups, house agriculture bills?
Yeah, use that, if you use that code, that 260770, that should be enough.
Okay, title.
And Representative Byrd might want to be the reporter on this one. Since he's been left out of the Philorama here.
I bet you're big.
Thank you.
There are more to go too, yeah. I'll give you a suite of bills.
So we then I think are probably ready to hear a motion to accept this draft, which is 6.2.
So moved.
All right, thank you, Representative Nelson. And is there any other discussion? All right, the clerk may call the vote.
John Bartholomew,
Yes.
Michelle Boslin,
Yes,
Jack Brigham,
Yes.
Greg Burke,
Yes.
Jed Lipsky is not here. Richard Nelson, yes. John O'Brien,
Yes.
Chair David Murphy.
Yes. All right, thank you.
The tally is 7-0-1.
All right, so in this case,
To write a
it's
time.
is a committee bill. Greg, I will have to send it to the drafting staff, so you don't have to, copy you so you know about it, but you don't have to do anything tonight with it.
And CC me on it.
Yes.
Good, just put it there, but it's not required.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Yeah, Ellen is not here. I think we're gonna have Katie come up next, so we can dispense with that.
Dispense.
so if our bill has already been voted on, should I send that to the clerk now?
Yeah, you have the information you need.
I think so.
Yes, yeah, you can do that anytime. Probably a good idea.
Okay, I'm gonna do that.
Okay, thank you.
Where would we find past bills now? Or were the draft,
We will be fine.
the bills we have passed so far, if I was sending Paraquat to the House Clerk?
Oh, Bradley's gonna send it to you. Bradley will send you the draft. Send it to the House Clerk, okay. Hi.
Hi again.
So we sent you away a few minutes, or we asked you to make some changes a few minutes ago,
Good.
and,
I have a draft for you.
okay.
So here's 4.1. We have some changes that you made this morning and then the change you just asked me to make.
Okay.
So section 1 is the new section that you're reading. Highlighted change in D1 without requiring the provision of a universal product code or proof of purchase, you remove the lot number, so that could be something that is requested. The next change in subdivision, what is this? D2 still. We just flipped the order instead of Vermont consumer, a consumer in Vermont. And then you asked me to remove section 2 of the bill. So now we just have an effective date. This act shall take effect on January 1, 2027. So this continues to exclude in the definition of baby food product, infant formula.
I think that's what we asked you to do. Thank you. Does anybody think differently? regardless of how you feel about it, does anybody think Katie didn't get what we asked her to do?
Katie did what she was asked.
Right there, line 8, right by her cursor, should that say QR code to a web page? Or no, that's a URL to a web page for the FDA's website that includes the guidelines.
Can you bump up there, Katie, just so we see what we're talking about here?
Okay, there's a QR code. Okay, thank you.
Good.
All right, yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. All right, so I don't know whether we, rather than to move things along, rather than a straw poll, I think we've had the discussion pretty much here, but we can take a motion to amend H 536 with version 4.1. If anybody would like to move that.
So
All right, Representative O'Brien, thank you. And is there any further discussion? Speak now, forever.
I've said my piece.
All right.
I tried to save the babies.
The clerk may call the roll.
Yes, John Bartholomew,
yes.
Michelle Boslin,
Yes.
begrudgingly, Jack Brink. Jack?
Yes.
Yes. Greg?
Yes.
Jed Lipsky. Here, Richard Nelson, yes, John O'Brien.
Yes.
And Chair David Durfee.
Yes.
7-0-1, and the reporter is me.
Oh, yes, right, Representative Nelson. And Patricia, Representative Lipsky has. It might be worth just sending him again the link to the meeting in case he's able to and wants to vote. Yeah. Okay, great, thank you. Now, I think we're gonna have Ellen come back and talk about the municipal ag committee bill. So, Ellen, if you could take Ellen for us, Patricia. I know she's somewhere. And we can just be at ease for a minute until she comes back.